Elon Musk sacrifices his life to save Doctor from plane crash. It was a serene afternoon at the bustling Metropolis airport. The sky stretched out in soft hues of orange and pink, promising a calm journey for the travelers aboard Flight 785, a state-of-the-art jetliner bound for New York. Among the passengers was none other than Elon Musk, quietly seated in the back, dressed in an unassuming hoodie and jeans. Beside him sat Dr. Emily Carter, a world-renowned surgeon returning from a humanitarian mission. The two exchanged polite nods, each lost in their own thoughts. Emily clutched her medical journal, flipping through pages of case studies, while Elon stared out of the window, contemplating his next innovation. Suddenly, the plane shuddered violently. The hum of the engines turned into a deafening roar. Panic swept through the cabin as oxygen masks dropped from above. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, barely masking the urgency in his tone. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing a critical engine failure. Please brace for emergency landing." The words hit like a tidal wave, leaving everyone frozen in fear. Elon, however, sprang into action. His sharp instincts kicked in as he scanned the cabin, assessing the situation. Meanwhile, Emily tightened her seatbelt, her heart pounding in her chest. The jetliner shook violently, plummeting through the clouds at an alarming rate. Passengers screamed, clutching onto their seats as the cabin lights flickered. Amid the chaos, Elon remained calm, analyzing the situation with the precision of a man used to solving impossible problems. He noticed smoke trailing from the right wing, confirming the worst: an engine had caught fire. Emily gripped the armrests, her knuckles turning white. "We're going down," she whispered under her breath, panic evident in her voice. Elon turned to her, his eyes steady. "We'll get through this," he said, his voice calm but resolute. "Trust me." As the plane continued its rapid descent, the emergency lights illuminated the path to the exits. Elon stood, steadying himself against the swaying cabin walls. He began helping others fasten their seatbelts and guiding frightened passengers into safer positions. Emily watched him in awe. Despite the dire circumstances, he exuded an unshakable confidence that seemed to anchor the terrified passengers around him. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Making sure we all have a chance," Elon replied. "We've got to be ready when we hit the ground." Suddenly, the plane lurched again, and the cabin filled with smoke. The acrid smell of burning fuel stung their noses and visibility dropped. The situation grew more dire with every passing second. The crash landing. The ground rushed toward them at an unforgiving speed. The captain fought valiantly to keep the plane steady, aiming for an open field just beyond the city. The impact was brutal, a deafening crash as the plane skidded across the field, metal shrieking against earth before coming to a jarring halt. For a moment, there was only silence, save for the crackling of flames outside the shattered windows. Groaning, Elon pulled himself up, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. He looked around, assessing the situation. Smoke filled the cabin, and several passengers were unconscious. Emily coughed, trying to focus despite the chaos. Her medical instincts kicked in as she stumbled toward a nearby passenger, checking for vital signs. "We need to get everyone out of here," she shouted. Elon nodded, already springing into action. He forced open one of the emergency doors, helping passengers climb out onto the wing. Flames danced dangerously close, threatening to consume the plane at any moment. "Move. Keep moving," Elon barked, his voice cutting through the panic. He helped an elderly woman onto the wing, then turned back for more. Emily worked tirelessly, assisting injured passengers and directing those who could walk toward the exit. Sweat poured down her face, but she didn't stop. Each second felt like a battle against time and the relentless advance of the flames. A desperate decision. Just as they thought they had gotten most of the passengers out, a loud explosion rocked the plane. The right engine burst into a ball of fire, and part of the fuselage collapsed inward. Emily stumbled, falling to her knees. "Elon," she called out, fear gripping her. She saw him through the smoke, still helping a young child who was trapped between two rows of seats. "I've got him," Elon shouted, lifting the child into his arms. He rushed toward the exit, but just as he reached the doorway, a piece of debris fell, blocking the path. Emily's heart stopped. "No," she cried. Without hesitation, Elon shielded the child with his body and charged through the smoke and flames. He emerged onto the wing, coughing but alive, handing the child to a waiting paramedic. "Are you insane?" Emily said, running to him. "You could have died." Elon managed a weak smile. "No point in having 9 lives if you don't use 1 or 2. The aftermath. The scene around the crash site was one of devastation. Emergency vehicles surrounded the wreckage, sirens blaring as firefighters battled the blaze. Medics attended to injured passengers, while news crews began to gather at the edge of the field. Elon and Emily sat on the grass, catching their breath. Their clothes were singed, their faces smudged with soot. Despite the chaos, a quiet sense of relief settled over them. They had survived. "You saved a lot of lives today," Emily said, her voice filled with gratitude. "So did you," Elon replied, looking at her with genuine respect. "I've worked with some brilliant minds, but I've never seen anyone stay as calm and focused under pressure as you did." Emily smiled, shaking her head. "I've never seen anyone run back into a burning plane without thinking twice. You're either a hero or a madman." "Probably a little of both," Elon said with a chuckle. "But today it was worth it." Just then, a young reporter approached them, microphone in hand. "Mr. Musk, Dr. Carter, can you tell us what happened?" Elon glanced at Emily, then back at the reporter. "We did what anyone would do," he said simply. "We helped each other. That's what matters." The crash site turned into a coordinated rescue effort as emergency personnel swarmed the area. Smoke still billowed from the charred remains of the plane, but most passengers had been safely evacuated and treated. Helicopters circled above, capturing every angle of the aftermath. Elon sat quietly on a paramedic's bench, watching the scene unfold. The adrenaline that had kept him moving was now draining from his body, leaving a deep fatigue in its wake. Yet, he couldn't shake the weight of responsibility that sat heavily on his shoulders. Emily returned from the triage area, her medical coat smeared with soot and blood. She handed him a bottle of water, her eyes scanning his face for any sign of injury. "How are you holding up?" she asked softly. Elon took a sip, his throat raw from inhaling smoke. "I'm fine," he said, though his voice betrayed his exhaustion. "But I can't stop thinking about what could have gone wrong. We were lucky today, but it could have ended so differently." Emily sat beside him, resting a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "What matters is that you acted when it counted," she said. "Not everyone has the courage to do what you did." For a moment, they sat in silence, watching as paramedics tended to the injured. The weight of the day pressed down on both of them, but there was also a shared sense of gratitude. Gratitude for being alive, and for the chance to help others. The unlikely hero. As the hours passed, the media began piecing together the story. News outlets ran headlines like, "Tech mogul Elon Musk saves dozens in crash landing," and "Heroic doctor and billionaire team up to prevent tragedy." Reporters clamored for interviews, but Elon waved them off, more focused on checking on the passengers. Emily followed him, impressed by his humility. "You do realize you just made global headlines, right?" she teased. Elon raised an eyebrow. "I'm not in it for the headlines," he said. "I just did what anyone would have done." Emily shook her head with a smile. "I hate to break it to you, but most people don't run back into a burning plane. You're not exactly anyone." Elon smirked. "Fair point. But I couldn't have done it without you." The two shared a brief moment of connection. Two strangers brought together by extraordinary circumstances, now bound by a shared experience that few would ever understand. Recognition and reflection. Days later, Elon and Emily were invited to speak at a press conference held by the National Aviation Authority. The room was packed with journalists, government officials, and survivors of the crash. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation as the two took their seats at the front of the room. The moderator, a stern-looking official, cleared his throat. "Today, we recognize two individuals whose quick thinking and bravery saved countless lives during the recent emergency landing," he began. "Mr. Musk and Dr. Carter, your actions exemplify the best of humanity. Thank you." A wave of applause swept through the room as Elon and Emily stood to address the crowd. "I'm not a hero," Elon said, his voice steady but humble. "I was just in the right place at the right time. The real heroes are the emergency responders and medical professionals who work tirelessly every day." He glanced at Emily, nodding in acknowledgement. "And doctors like Emily, who stayed calm and focused when the rest of us were panicking." Emily smiled, taking the microphone. "If there's one thing I've learned from this experience, it's that we're stronger together," she said. "In moments of crisis, it's our connections, our willingness to help each other, that makes all the difference." The crowd erupted in applause once again, the energy in the room palpable. A new beginning. After the press conference, Elon and Emily found themselves standing on the steps of the building, the cool evening breeze brushing against their faces. The chaos of the past few days had finally given way to a quiet calm. "So, what's next for you?" Emily asked, genuinely curious. Elon chuckled. "Back to solving the world's problems, I suppose. Space travel, sustainable energy, the usual." Emily laughed. "Of course. Just another day in the life of Elon Musk." "And you?" Elon asked, his tone more serious. "What's next for you, Dr. Carter?" Emily hesitated for a moment, her eyes thoughtful. "I think this experience has changed me," she admitted. "I've been so focused on my career, but now I want to find ways to make a bigger impact. Maybe work on disaster response or global health initiatives." Elon nodded approvingly. "Sounds like you're about to change the world." "Maybe," Emily said, a twinkle in her eye. "Or maybe I'll just keep running toward burning planes with reckless billionaires." Elon laughed, extending his hand. "If you ever need a partner in crime, you know where to find me." Emily shook his hand firmly. "Deal." Epilogue. The power of connection. The story of the crash, and the unlikely partnership that emerged from it, became a symbol of hope and resilience. News outlets continued to share updates about the survivors, highlighting stories of recovery and newfound purpose. Elon and Emily stayed in touch, collaborating on several humanitarian projects in the years that followed. Their bond, forged in the heat of crisis, grew stronger with time. And while the world knew Elon Musk as a tech visionary and Emily Carter as a dedicated doctor, those who witnessed the crash knew them as something more, two people who refused to give up, who chose to stand together in the face of the impossible, and who showed the world the true meaning of courage. The days following the crash felt surreal. Both Elon and Emily found themselves swept up in interviews, news articles, and invitations to various public appearances. Yet, amidst all the media attention, they remained grounded by the raw reality of the event. One afternoon, Elon invited Emily to SpaceX headquarters. She had always been curious about his projects and wanted to see firsthand the innovation that had inspired millions. As they walked through the massive facility, the hum of machines and the click of engineers' keyboards filled the air. "So, this is where the magic happens," Emily said, her eyes wide as she took in the towering rockets and intricate technology. "More like where we keep trying until we get it right," Elon replied with a grin. "Innovation is just a series of failures until you hit success?" Emily nodded thoughtfully. "That sounds a lot like medicine. You learn from every case, every mistake, and every moment of triumph." Elon stopped in front of a prototype of a new spacecraft. "The same principle applies everywhere, whether you're saving lives in a hospital or trying to get humanity to Mars." They stood in silence for a moment, both reflecting on the fragility of life and the strength of the human spirit. A call to action. A few weeks later, Emily received a call from a global health organization. They had heard about her actions during the plane crash and wanted her to lead a new initiative focused on disaster response training for medical professionals worldwide. The offer was tempting, but it came with a significant commitment, relocation, extensive travel, and long hours. Unsure of what to do, she called Elon. "I don't know if I'm ready for such a big change," she confessed. "It feels overwhelming." Elon's voice was calm but encouraging. "The best decisions are the ones that scare you a little. If it feels too easy, it's probably not worth doing." Emily smiled. "You're always full of wisdom, aren't you?" "Not always," Elon said with a chuckle. "But I've learned that the moments that push us out of our comfort zones are the ones that matter the most." With renewed confidence, Emily accepted the offer. It was a chance to make a difference on a global scale, a chance she couldn't pass up. A global partnership. As Emily dove into her new role, she and Elon began collaborating on projects that combined their expertise. They worked on initiatives that use technology to improve disaster response, from developing advanced medical drones to creating mobile health clinics powered by solar energy. Their partnership became a symbol of what could be achieved when science and compassion came together. Together, they traveled to disaster-stricken areas, bringing resources, training, and hope to communities in need. In one remote village affected by a recent earthquake, Emily watched as a solar-powered mobile clinic treated dozens of patients. Tears welled in her eyes as she saw the difference their work was making. "This is what it's all about," she said, turning to Elon. "Real impact. Real change." Elon nodded, his gaze fixed on the bustling clinic. "And this is just the beginning. A moment of recognition." 1 year after the crash, the two were invited to a global humanitarian summit to share their experiences and insights. Leaders from around the world gathered to listen to their story, a story of resilience, innovation, and the power of human connection. Elon spoke first, recounting the events of the crash with a blend of humility and humor. "It's not every day you get to run into a burning plane," he joked, earning a wave of laughter from the audience. "But in all seriousness, that experience taught me that true strength lies in our ability to come together and support each other." Emily followed, her voice steady and full of conviction. "In moments of crisis, it's easy to feel powerless. But every action, no matter how small, can make a difference. And when we combine our strengths, we can overcome even the greatest challenges." The crowd erupted in applause, moved by their words and inspired by their story. An unbreakable bond. As the summit drew to a close, Emily and Elon stood on the balcony of the conference center, overlooking the city skyline. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in hues of orange and pink. "It's been a wild year," Emily said, her voice tinged with nostalgia. "It has," Elon agreed. "But I wouldn't change a thing." They shared a quiet moment, the weight of their journey settling around them. Despite their vastly different worlds, they had found a connection that transcended their circumstances, a bond forged in the crucible of crisis and strengthened by their shared desire to make a difference. "You know," Elon said, a playful glint in his eye, "I never imagined my life would take this turn. Saving lives, traveling the world with a doctor, it's a little outside the usual tech billionaire routine." Emily laughed. "And I never thought I'd end up collaborating with a rocket scientist. Life is full of surprises." Elon extended his hand. "Here's to more surprises." Emily shook his hand, her grip firm. "To more surprises." Epilogue. The ripple effect. The story of Elon and Emily's partnership continued to inspire people around the world. News outlets chronicled their humanitarian work, shining a spotlight on the importance of innovation and collaboration in solving global challenges. Their work led to advancements in disaster response, medical technology, and sustainable energy. Communities once devastated by natural disasters began to thrive again, thanks to the resources and support they provided. And while the world knew them as a tech visionary and a dedicated doctor, those who followed their journey knew them as something more. Two people who refused to stand by in the face of adversity, who chose to act, and who showed the world that even in the darkest moments, there is always light. After the summit, life settled into a new rhythm for Elon and Emily. Their joint humanitarian projects flourished, but with success came new challenges. Demand for their innovative solutions skyrocketed, and both found themselves stretched thin, trying to meet growing expectations. One evening, Emily sat in her office, papers scattered across her desk, her eyes heavy with fatigue. The phone buzzed, Elon's name flashed on the screen. "Burning the midnight oil again?" His voice was warm, familiar. "Something like that," Emily sighed. "There's just so much to do. We've got requests for mobile clinics from 3 more countries, and we're barely keeping up as it is." "We'll figure it out," Elon assured her. "We always do. Sometimes it feels like we're trying to solve the world's problems all at once," she confessed. Elon paused for a moment before replying, "We can't solve everything, but we can create a foundation for others to build on. That's what matters. The power of teamwork." Realizing the need for support, they decided to expand their team. They brought in experts from various fields, doctors, engineers, disaster response specialists, to help scale their efforts. Each person brought fresh ideas and solutions, breathing new life into the project. One of the new recruits was Dr. Javier Morales, a passionate physician with years of experience in crisis zones. He quickly became an integral part of the team, offering insights that streamlined their operations and improved their impact on the ground. "We're building something remarkable here," Javier said during one of their strategy meetings. "This isn't just about responding to disasters, it's about creating a global network of resilience." His words resonated deeply with the team, reinforcing their shared mission. A crisis in the heart of the city. Just as things seemed to be settling into place, an unexpected crisis struck. A powerful earthquake hit a densely populated city, leaving thousands injured and homeless. Emily and Elon immediately mobilized their resources, dispatching mobile clinics and emergency teams to the affected area. Emily led the medical response on the ground, working tirelessly to treat the wounded. Meanwhile, Elon coordinated logistics, ensuring that supplies and support arrived without delay. Amid the chaos, they encountered a young boy named Mateo, who had been separated from his family during the quake. His wide eyes were filled with fear, clinging to Emily's hand as she tried to comfort him. "We'll find your family," she promised, her voice steady despite the turmoil around them. Elon knelt beside the boy, his expression soft. "You're a brave kid, Mateo. We'll take care of you." Over the next few days, Mateo became a symbol of hope for the team. They eventually reunited him with his family, a heartwarming moment that reminded everyone why they were there. Personal turning point. The earthquake response brought Emily and Elon even closer. Amid the long nights and intense challenges, they found solace in each other's presence. What had started as a professional partnership had blossomed into a deep, unspoken connection. One evening, as they sat by a campfire at the disaster site, Elon turned to Emily. "It's funny how life works out, isn't it? A year ago, I was focused on building rockets and electric cars. Now I'm here, sitting in a disaster zone with the most inspiring doctor I've ever met." Emily smiled, her eyes reflecting the flickering flames. "Life has a way of surprising us. But I wouldn't trade this journey for anything." They shared a quiet moment, the weight of their experiences hanging in the air. Innovating for the future. Back at headquarters, the team began working on a new initiative inspired by the lessons learned during the earthquake response. They developed an advanced disaster prediction system that used artificial intelligence to anticipate natural disasters and coordinate early responses. The technology quickly gained attention, hailed as a game-changer in global disaster management. Governments and humanitarian organizations lined up to adopt the system, eager to enhance their preparedness. At a press conference announcing the new initiative, Emily addressed the crowd with her usual grace and confidence. "This technology is not just about predicting disasters, it's about saving lives," she said. "It's about giving people the chance to prepare, to protect their loved ones, and to build stronger, more resilient communities." Elon followed, his voice steady and passionate. "Innovation should always serve humanity. And this is just the beginning of what we can achieve together." The ripple effect. The impact of their work rippled across the globe. Communities once vulnerable to natural disasters began to thrive, armed with the tools and knowledge to protect themselves. The mobile clinics became a blueprint for emergency response in remote areas, and the AI prediction system saved countless lives. Emily and Elon found themselves at the forefront of a movement that redefined disaster response. Yet, despite their success, they remained grounded, driven by the same purpose that had brought them together in the first place, a desire to make the world a better, safer place. One evening, as they watched the sunset from the rooftop of SpaceX, Emily turned to Elon. "We've come a long way," she said, her voice tinged with awe. "We have," Elon agreed. "And we're just getting started." A legacy of hope. As time went on, their story became a symbol of what could be achieved through collaboration, innovation, and compassion. They inspired a new generation of leaders, scientists, and humanitarian workers, proving that even the most unlikely partnerships could change the world. And while their journey was far from over, one thing was certain: they had found something truly special in each other. Something that would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead.